buffer time. And it's back. Okay, good. Alrighty, so let's get started on our first set. Pirate is just a seated pose, but we'll start with it, I guess. It's a very nice drawing. Anyway, so today we're going to be covering mainly silhouettes, but there's also a little bit of shorthand and some other ideas I'm going to try to filter into what we're doing, so it isn't just about that. But let's see, maybe I'll get dark black color because we're doing silhouettes. So for the silhouettes, they're not too dissimilar from what we've been doing for like the line of action posing and for the shape posing that we did last week. In fact, like your starting point for the silhouette should be kind of like a cuneiform line of action that we've been using. But you want to think in terms of like what makes a stronger read of the silhouette of the figure, like when you fill it in. Like how can you modify or push the pose to make it a stronger silhouette? You're going to be doing a little bit of cartoonification because the approach we're taking is an animator's figure drawing approach. Like the figures that you're going to be doing aren't necessarily going to be realistic. You're going to have a lot of kind of very cartoon shorthand. How we're going to be doing it tonight. And I've supplied some examples that I uploaded into Discord that show good examples of what we're trying to do. I'm actually going to put them up over here on the upper right. Some examples on the upper right on Twitch. On screen that show you what we're trying to do this evening. We are looking for overall shape. We are looking for opportunities to abstract and find line of action that will drive the silhouette of the pose. If there's an opportunity to separate limbs from the body to create a stronger read of the silhouette to make it more understandable what the pose is doing, then you do that. Then you look for opportunities to do that. Some of these are going to be like very clothed models. Some of these are going to be like really dynamic athletes. There's going to be standing poses. There's going to be seated poses. It's going to be a very wide variety of stuff. Drawing from tonight. When you get a pose like this one's an opportunity to really play with volume. In this case, I'm gonna push like a few things of the pose, like more like her nose is sticking out. Cartoon nose is kind of sticking out over the edge and there. And I'm maybe gonna size the corner of her elbow a little bit more there. Emphasize her hand a bit more. See more of her chin. Might be an opportunity to kind of play with this curve a bit. Maybe make the elbow more apparent. Build off this a little bit. Making her a bit thick, so maybe I'll carve out some of this here. Not my hand left. We have two poses here. There's 2 minutes, there's plenty of time to kind of mess with both of these. As a sampler of what we're doing today, like you want to kind of start these poses with a sort of a Chinese or Japanese cuneiform sort of thing like this, and then you want to start looking for opportunities to push the silhouette and fill in the silhouette, create the negative space of the pose, basically. In this case, before I get too far into filling the pose, I think I'm going to go into doing the other figure, because these figures are almost like a single unit. Remember last week, the shape poses that we were doing, that was an exercise to get you guys starting to think of the poses that you're drawing in terms of like a single unit. And that includes if like two poses are interacting with each other. Like this. You want to think about what the poses are doing and try to play into that too. That's a big thing this evening. Like, look for opportunities to kind of push things or emphasize things with what's happening. I'm drawing really big. One of the things I'm going to actually have people do when we do the faster poses, these are warm-ups, so I'm just kind of getting this out of my system. When I have people doing the faster poses, I'm going to have people drawing a lot smaller. I'm going to shrink these so I have more space on the page to have more poses. So we might do some 30-second poses tonight, but I think 1s and 2s would probably be a good choice because it gives us more time to slow down and think and make design decisions. But 30 seconds can help us get really loosened up. So in this case, I've made the decision here that I'm going to create a little bit of negative space on the left side there with the cloak, but the overall shape of the rest of it is going to be still filled in. You make little design decisions to make the pose be like that. I think that the arm angle is a little bit high here, but that's okay. It's going to roll the ledger. I mean, you're allowed to kind of interpret the riff a little bit. You do want to like make note of like when you get something that's kind of off, and you maybe would want to adjust it, but in this case, there's not enough time for me to really change that. So, and it kind of works as an initial impression. So. So same thing as that other dual pose that we just had. Remember to treat the poses as a single unit. Whoops. I'm gonna move that actually. You want to treat the poses as a single unit, and using and you want to use a simple line of action cuneiform like this as your starting point. So in this case, I'm going to modify the pose of the woman a little bit to make her kind of lean in more, and also to show more of her hand here, more of her elbow, not from her body. Get the other hand there. push this back as if she's like really pushing into his chest. He's being pushed back a bit. This guy right here, this is a great example of like starting with that really simple line of action. That's your starting point. One of the things that I didn't include on my sheet, that I probably want to see if there's a way that I can include it. One of the things I want people to keep in mind is counterposing the tilt of the shoulders, the tilt of the shoulders and tilt of the hips. In this case, like the tilt is going that way and the other tilt is going kind of that way. They're like counterposing each other. So look for that, and look for like the active and inactive side, or the pressed and stretch side figure, especially on the torso. All kinds of little tricks and stuff that we'll be dipping into to get these silhouettes to read nicer. So straights against curves right here. Get kind of a straight, this is a curve, but it's a very straight curve, and then there's kind of like these kind of C-curve, S-curve-y sort of bumps that I made on this side, the muscle side. There's an opportunity to do a little bit of that here. Again, when you get a scene like this, like, try to treat the poses as a single unit. Maybe zooming back to actually get it smaller now. So I get more warmed up. Time is it? Actually didn't set a timer, did I? Let's see, we've been at this for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, Google, set timer for 8 minutes.
8 minutes, and that's starting now.
There's actually kind of a nice S-curve going on this guy right there. Little body there. I'm gonna have his hands kind of come out here a little, read more of the silhouette. Probably enough space for the bride, so just in case I'm going to shrink him a little bit. But again, like I'm still like kind of treating these poses as a single unit. I did get a little bit heavy into him before I meant to, but it's still kind of, as I'm making her, I'm correlating what I drew with him against it, as if like these are like a single design. Time to fill it in. So tomorrow in Discord, we're going to be doing a bunch of cinematics and storyboard studies. Reverse storyboard studies. So be ready for that tomorrow. It's going to be basically a homework period. If you haven't been able to get to some cinematic studies this week. I was also thinking, in addition to, I wanted to do more cinematic studies on Tuesday, but I was only able to get some like silhouette studies, which I also needed to do. Silhouette and head studies. But tomorrow we will be hyper-emphasizing cinematic studies, and I will be trying to integrate that into what we do in our Friday Figure Design class. So maybe I get a bunch of like pose vignettes from films or something for us to do studies from. Compositional studies. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
T-minus 4 minutes and 29 seconds.
Cool, so we got about one more pose after this warm-up set. So I think 2 minutes is a good time to really give us enough time to really meditate on the silhouette. We might do some one-ones, possibly some 30 seconds, but I think that might be a bit much. This might be a good session to slow down and think a little bit more, compared to like the really rapid fire stuff we did last week. Get more time to kind of think and process the tools that we were studying last week and the week before, and how they integrate into what we're doing here. Pretty wild seeing that kind of line. Do some designy stuff with it, but you could make like a really funny illustration out of this. There's a lot to take in with what's going on in this photo. I really appreciate it. I just love it when real life photography captures the moment. It feels like it was an illustration. Oh, skipping that one. I'm gonna draw these guys really small. I'll get everything in. About what's happening and strategize about how to emphasize that. The guy up top is striking the other dude in the chest is bending back. That way you can emphasize that more a bit. Looks like he's like being struck in the chest, but he's also throwing his upper body backwards a little bit to take away from the blow. Like a good martial artist will instinctively pull away from a blow or tumble and fall or something on purpose to lessen the impact of a blow. That's it for the set. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
You've got 28 seconds remaining.
Okay, that's our break point then. Okay, Google, stop timer.
No problem. I canceled it.
Alright, so let's maybe set a 10-minute break timer, although we might come back sooner and I'll explain some things a little bit further into the break, but then we'll get started with another 20-minute set. You like the pace of these twos, so we might stick with twos. Like, these are some I'm really satisfied with these warm-ups. These are some very fun warm-ups. A little choppy here because there's a lot to take in on that pose, but these feel pretty good to me. So feel free to post what you've got so far in the warm-ups in the chat. Also, I'll get Magma Studio set up so people can participate on screen and get their pretty little silhouette drawings. The cool thing about silhouettes is silhouette studies are a really wonderful way to make people realize that through the powers of their observation skills, they are actually better draftsmen than they realize. They just haven't put the puzzle pieces together quite yet. So, like, when you are reading forms and stuff, and you are trying to break them down into, like, silhouette shapes, where you flatten things out into a solid shape and simplify it and stuff, you find yourself, like, being able to cut out, like, the overwhelming amount of information that you're supposed to be using to, like, describe a pose. Like, and it becomes a little easier to kind of emphasize stuff and to track stuff and to observe stuff. So silhouette studies are a really great tool for artists to get a huge visual memory morale boost and realizing, oh, I'm actually not very shitty. I have powers of observation as a human being to be able to record this stuff. So a lot of you who are starting to wrap your heads around using this technique will, like, start surprising yourself with how good looking some of the results turn out as. And that's good. Silhouettes can be a foundation for, like, you can start a drawing or an idea with a silhouette, and then you cut into the silhouette with extra details, or you break it down further, and, like, you'd go into something like this. You'd, like, if you say, like, you're doing like a concept art piece, you do like silhouettes, like a silhouette like that, and then you carve into it with, like, secondary shapes, or, like, describing, like, the hand here, or describing the shoulders of the face there, and some other things, breaking down the forms of the body. So, taking a look at people's results. This is also an opportunity to, like, try to emphasize, like, try to really start with that strong line of action, because that'll give you something to go stronger with the pose. Think about what the pose is doing and what the physics of what's happening on screen, and how you can push that or emphasize things. Like, it's your opportunity to design something. Like, here, let me show you an example. Let me see if I can find a good example. So let's see if we can find some Marvel superhero poses. Here's an animated Spider-Man pose that's really kind of a good silhouette. Pretty good silhouette, I would say. Very exaggerated, very pushed with, like, forced perspective on that, making that foot really tiny, going away from us. This one has, like, a very kind of clear line of action for, like, the body and the arms and stuff. And let's see if I can find some other examples. Here's some good ones. Some good superhero poses. I think these were studies, possibly, of existing superhero poses, but pretty nice, pretty nifty. You can see, like, the overall kind of thrust and shape of the body and stuff. If you squint, these still read. You can generally tell what the poses are doing, even though they're really sketchy. There's a figure model that is a classic superhero pose. You can really see that this has a very strong silhouette, and the sculptor had to design it so it reads as a very strong silhouette from just about every angle. But you can see, like, even like in this, for example, like there's like this clear kind of line of action right here. There's this kind of like right angle sort of, like you could like squint on this and or turn this black or something, and it would like it would still read this image. This image is from a figure model. It's posed towards the camera in this case. But as with that other one I showed you, like these figure models are made to be read well from just about any angle with a pretty good silhouette. This just happens to be a particularly strong angle. Let's see, invert select area. Make that this a little exclusion right there. Whoops. Invert selected area. It's wrong. So exterior. Interior. Wait, no. There we go. Okay. As you can see, when I fill this in with black, like you can still tell what's going on here, basically. Like it's pretty, it's pretty easy to tell like what direction the torso is facing. You can tell like good sense of like the overall kind of line of action of the body, that kind of right angle bend to the knee there. And so on. Put that away in here. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of a taste of what we're focusing on tonight as far as silhouettes go. But like, I really want people to emphasize like pushing stuff. Like, say if you get a pose like this, you can push it beyond what like even like Cap is doing. Like, you can play with it even more. Like, really twist that body. Really like pull out a straight in that leg just for the whole line of action pose. You might simplify his leg as like a simple line of action with a couple like straight against curve bumps, for example. You can change his pose slightly if you want. Like his arms down here, it's a cool dynamic pose. It reads really, really well. But like, let's say you wanted him to raise his arm or something, you'd have him. Slightly change the angle of the arm, for example, like this. You go even beyond this too, like let's do a super cartoony Captain America with an itty bitty head. Bigfoot. Big arms, small hands. shield maybe. Just move it. Let's make that really high. And maybe you can carve on this. Want to emphasize or de-emphasize something. There we go. I mean, like, these are all valid. This is a, well, that's a very literal version of the Captain America silhouette right there at the starting point, really. But for our quick sketch silhouettes, you can push them and modify them and exaggerate, like add meaning to it, or change the meaning of it. Like, you have a lot of freedom to play with this stuff when you're doing like these quick silhouette studies. You also don't have to be perfectly clean. In fact, like if you leave a lot of gaps in here, you can go back in and fill them in during like the break or something. Yeah, there's some examples. Literal. Pushed. Super pushed. You can go even further beyond that. Like, you can get like really crazy with this stuff if you want to. Abstract. Push. Modify. The pose. Look for opportunity. To purpose or saturation. There we go. I'll do a little screenshot of this and upload it to the Discord for you guys. I'm on a pretty good roll lately because I've started to hit my stride with doing my practice, so that's why I'm able to bust out these little demonstrations of what you guys should be doing. Because I'm starting to like get my muscle memory back. shit. Oh, where did it go? Did I save it in the right folder? There it is. Your stuff's not being sorted by date. But yeah, I uploaded it to the drawing corner here. That's just some examples there. Slimness is using a traditional pen, yeah. Like a dark pen, any color really, any dark color really, actually any color really. Cheap pen the better. Cheap pen and cheap paper is good for this, because then you won't be wasting ink or expensive paper, because you're going to be doing a lot of these. Yeah, more people getting warmed up. That one's pretty good. This one, I see you starting to get some of the unit thing down with it, but this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Some of these get a little bit kind of confused, but that's okay. It's just warm-ups. Kind of get an overview of where people are at with their warm-ups. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, let's talk about this other sheet that I made before class. Oh, also I should upload this, because this is warm-ups, but these are pretty good warm-ups and pretty nicely pushed. I could probably fill them in a little bit more, but warm-up goes in there. I have to sort these by date. Yep. So you can use these as examples of how you're supposed to push yourself a bit more. Because I did modify these, I like simplified stuff, like I simplified that pirate foot, for example. And made her nose kind of poke out. It's a little bit kind of cartoony. I cartooned this a bit. I definitely cartooned that guy right there. I didn't actually finish this guy on the right here. This lady, I spent a lot of time and attention on modifying her pose a little bit to make her silhouette on her upper body read a little better. This one was I got a really strong read on initially, and then I was able to kind of insert kind of straights against curves stuff, some other things into it. But some of the principles of what I'm going over today are on this sheet here. In addition to the silhouette stuff that I showed you, here's some things to remember. Using straights against curves to create more dynamic posing. Look for opportunities to add straights against curves. Like for example, here's a leg here, where I just use like a straight, or there's one side that kind of feels more like a straight, and then there's another side where you can see kind of like more of the muscles and bulging and stuff, like the thigh and the calf, the back of the calf. So I decided to do like kind of simple curve. Another thing is cuneiform line. There's another example here. I actually did that on Captain America's leg there. Here, like look for opportunities to do that, to use straights against curves. Let's see. So the cuneiform line of action, these are figure poses of like really simple line of action, like primary and secondary lines of action for like limbs and whatnot. This is the exercise we did about 2 weeks ago. Look for very simple lines of action. You can kind of see that a little bit in Captain America right here. He's got one big one going right there, and he's got like secondary line of action for like his arm, maybe his leg, supporting him and stuff. You can use those as your starting point for your silhouette drawings. Like look for a very simple cuneiform. You can see me using a little bit of that in some of these. Like I got a little sketchy with them, then I probably should have a little more sketchy, but you can definitely see like I started with kind of a cuneiform look for that, and I started with like that for this. So look for like that simple line of action thrust that conveys the meaning of the pose that you can play with and push. Another tip is if we are doing quicker poses, if you draw smaller, you draw faster on the quicker poses and can get a bigger overall read of the pose. Bear in mind you should not draw with your wrist, even when you're drawing small. You should be trying to use your shoulder as much as possible to draw from. Don't use your elbow or your wrist, because you'll not have very good control. Like you'll be jittering and stuff, and you'll also be putting pressure on your wrist, which leads to carpal tunnel. So remember, when you're whatever size you're drawing at, get used to using your arm, your upper arm, your shoulder to drive your drawing. And like try to use a light touch. Like don't try to use materials that like. That's why using Sharpies is good for this exercise, because you don't have to press hard with a Sharpie. And so the pen I have right now is kind of mimicking a little bit of the feel of a Sharpie or a really sloppy brush pen, basically. So push the pose. Design a stronger silhouette than the model gives you. Like here's a very vague pose where the arms are kind of crossing over the body, so you can't really see what the limbs are doing. This one on the right here is an example of pushing the pose, where I kind of like gave more dimensionality to the stance of the feet, exaggerated that a bit. I separated the arm from the body a bit more, so you can see kind of like he's got his arm on his hip down here. I might even push this more. Like I could push like a hand completely off the body, kind of like coming out over here, and change the pose completely. And I have more attitude, kind of. Just kind of think of what you're trying to say with the pose when you modify it or when you push it. Here's some stuff on shorthand heads. I've got another sheet that I uploaded to chat. This one here, which is, I forget who, Dave Pimentel made that. It's a Disney artist kind of approach to. It's one of the many kind of Disney artist animator approaches to simplifying a head. It's kind of like 1-2 simple approach here. This is something that you could practice on your own later. I think Grizz and Norm have some good examples of this too in some of their tip guides, but here's some examples of shorthand heads. Here's like the 1-2 circle approach. Here's the sailboat head right here. This little detail I forgot to add into this one. There's advantages to using any of these, and reasons to use any of these. This one's more kind of a Disney sailboat. So the sailboat head is this kind of wedge triangle shape. You can you just with like a simple you can tell what direction it's facing pretty easily, and it saves you a little bit of time drawing. But shorthand head, a shorthand head like the Disney pose, where you start with a sphere and you like add a mouth to it. That one can give you a different look and feel, give you more freedom over what you do with the mouth and stuff. When you exaggerate, you can even stretch the head sphere out to change the meaning of the character.
Your stream is on for Discord.
That's some of what we did on Monday, by the way. And this one right here, this one's a really nice go-to approach. You can see me actually did some practice using this head a little bit before class. On these little kind of invented poses here. Loosening up before class. You can see it's pretty easy to do like a 3/4 view. Tilt the head, like this is like an upward tilted head slightly. You can see like the angle of the ear is going that way, the angle of the front of the face is going that way and stuff. But you don't have to worry about that quite as much for a silhouette. I just want people to be aware that that's an approach that they can use. Keep in mind. And this right here is one of the other things that's on my sheet. This is a thing called, there's a lot of different terminology used to rid of this. Your stream on Discord stopped. Oh, it did? Looks like it's going for me. You might want to restart it. But In any case, this right here with this kind of like arrows they have going down this profile view figure here, this is something you want to be aware of, or like kind of how figures have like an innate sense of like the gravity and the force acting against them. You can, in any pose that they're in, like you can kind of like feel on this one, for example, there's like this kind of invisible thread line through of like the forces that are kind of creating the bumps and the curves on the body, but also giving a sense that like the flesh on the body and stuff is sort of hanging off the bones. Like your belly is, for example, your belly is resting in the top of your belly and your guts are resting on the top of your pelvis. Your buttocks is protruding out over here and sort of being propped up by the muscles of the back of your thighs. The front of your thighs are bulging out over here off the fronts of your thighs. Calves are bulging off the back. You find that these rhythms that the body is and stuff. It's kind of, so you want to look for opportunities to like find rhythm, the pose that kind of conveys a sense of weight. You want to feel weight when you're drawing, weight and action and inertial force in some cases. Like if a pose is in movement, then like these inertial forces are also going to be modified by whatever is like driving the like for example, like driving the inertial push of the pose. Like this character is stretching upwards a little bit. I actually think maybe I could have emphasized this by making him on his tiptoes a bit more, but nevertheless, like their body is kind of stretched out a bit, their arm is stretched out too. There's still like this cascading sense of like this kind of waterfall effect, like this in its base form, but it's stretched out and it's modified there. You can even see it here in like these quick, simple sketches I did before class. Like there's this sense that like you could go back in and you could look for the opportunities for where the waterfall curves, basically. There's like these invisible forces that are creating these senses of weight and inertia and form to a pose. You want to start like keying yourself into being able to read. Down the back, coming out through the belly, some of it coming up from the spine too. Okay, Google, how much time we have on timer?
It looks like you don't have any timers set at the moment.
Really? Fuck off, Google. Well, I mean, it's a good thing that I spent this extra time covering this stuff so that you guys know. About. So I'm going to touch on some other things real quick on the sheet. Here's like some really shitty drawings of like shorthand hands and feet. You don't have to be as worried about making good feet and hands, but try to plant the heel when you can. And good ways to kind of plant that is that if you're using a very simple foot, like this, it's just something like that. That's just fine. Like you can see I use that here, like a shorthand foot. Just try to get a sense of like when a foot is planted to really plant it. Stuff, and you can also use like a box for the heel and the box of the hockey puck approach right here that I have. That here's a couple examples of some shorthand hands, like the ball palm, which is kind of like a Disney hand, and the cube palm. One thing that'll definitely help is if you have a little triangle wedge on either side of the palm for the creating that like underside of the palm space, basically. You can like just use very simple gestural indications for the hand poses. And here's the waterfall again. Also, another thing you want to look for is you want to look for a center of balance, and that center of balance will shift in action poses, because the force of that center of balance is being modified by the inertia wherever the figure is moving. Anyway, yeah, so we're gonna get started in another set in a little bit here. I'm gonna actually bring up my Magma Studio real quick. So Magma Studio is a collaborative drawing app that I actually want to sign up for the premium version of in the future, but here it is right here. We're going to be using the free version, so it's only 1080p. The fee, what is it, like $10 a month or something? But yeah, if you donate to the stream, I will be able to start signing up for this for like the 4K resolution version, so that people will have more resolution to draw with. But the way we're going to do this is I'm going to divide up the drawing space right here into 4 sections. So it's not perfect, but now I'm gonna put the link to. I'm gonna put the invite link to this into whoops. Put the invite link to this into my hidden supporter chat, and then it'll be a first come first serve thing. I want you to claim a drawing space on here. So when you come in, sign your name, and then you sign your name and you can create new layers to draw stuff on. Be sure to save screenshots of your work too, so you can upload them later. And yeah, that's screenshots or image files from the Magma thing itself, so you can archive them for yourself and share them. But this is a way for people to draw along with me while we're doing it, and I'll be able to jump in and maybe draw over people's drawings and stuff. So I'm going to provide the link in the way we're doing it is the Discord hidden supporter chat down in my supporter corner, the hidden supporter chat right there. The link is going to be in there for people who are Twitch subscribers, Twitch and Twitch Prime subscribers to my Twitch channel, who are Patreon subscribers, and who are Discord server boosties. So yeah, the link is in the hidden supporter corner now. We'll see how many people get in there, and then if there's not enough people for 4, I will put the link into the Magma Studios link section right here in my voice chat. Yeah. So let me just check something real quick. I want to make sure that I have it right. Yeah, here we go. That's good. Everything looks good. All right. So let's see. Give it another minute or so, and then we'll get started on the next set. Okay, we'll set timer for 1 minute.
1 minute, and we're starting now.
Sounds like Alexa got a little confused. Alexa, stop timer.
1 minute timer canceled.
Okay. Just Google now that's doing that. I've never had that happen before. Like both the virtual assistants like thought I was talking to him at the same time. When did that happen? Is the link working, by the way, for the Magma Studio in the hidden supporter corner? I don't see anyone signed in on it just yet. If no one signs in the next minute before we go back to our set, I'll just post the link in the Magna Studio section. Okay, Google, stop. Alright, so I'll just post it in the Magna Studio section since we didn't have any joiners yet. And here it is, the Magna link in the Magna Studio section. So just use the honor system and use the first come. Yeah, it'll be a first come first serve thing. Oh yeah, you can't see my. Okay, 1 second. All right, so my screen should be visible in the Drawing Corner Discord chat now. Somebody mentioned that my Discord stream seems to have messed up, so I restarted it. Is it okay now? Okay, good. Alrighty, so yeah, looks like we got some joiners. Remember, use the honor system. 1 person per space. It looks like there's 3 other people. I'm not going to be in there, so there should be a total of 5 in there. 5 in there, myself included, participating. If somebody has to leave early, then they can leave. Then they can give up their spot or whatever. Or if they want to take a turn or something, just let me know, and then we can get someone else in there. But remember to screenshot your work. Oh yeah, the music. Let me put on some other music. Let's see here. Yeah, I've got like home resonance on in the background at really low volume. So okay, now I got something else. Let me know if the music competes with my voice too, by the way. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, anyone can join right now. You just have to be, yeah. It'll be the Magna Studio link. Just when you come in, claim one of the 4 spots that are on screen by signing your name there. And it's first come, first serve. And if you need more drawing space, just just create additional layers and hide them or whatever. Try to watch out about using the paint bucket tool, by the way. You'll maybe try to avoid using it because it'll sometimes like fill in the whole screen. So anyway, so we're going to be getting back to our poses now. There's this really interesting pose here that I've been dying to do for the last several minutes. So we're going to jump right into, I would say, another set of 2 minutes for 20 minutes. We're going to keep going at this until about 8:30 tonight, I would say. Alright, so I'm going to get started. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
Alright, 20 minutes and 30 seconds. Starting now.
30 seconds is a little bit of extra buffer time in case we need to skip a pose or something. Alright, so remember to maybe try to draw a little smaller. Try to start with a line of action. Think about, like, before you charge into the pose, maybe think a little bit about what the pose is doing. And think about maybe something you want to do with pose. Like, I'm going to have, you can see a little bit of his nose sticking out there, for example. I'm going to think about like that Japanese Chinese cuneiform approach. Kind of help me find the line of action. And what I want to say with this pose. Remember to try to think of the pose as a single unit if you can, like a single abstract statement. That was the point of last week's exercise. So even though you are doing more details this week than you would be on like a abstract shape drawing, you can use ideas from turning the pose into a single abstract state unit as a something to riff off of. I feel like there's more I can do with this. Definitely more I could do to push this for sure. I'm gonna fill in what I got here, so almost out of time. Look for opportunities to add attitude to the lines that you're making. Like you're not just like doing a dry figure study with these, you're trying to find ways to invest personality into the lines that you're making. That was the point of, well, that was also the point of last week's exercise, but that was mainly the point of the exercise we did 2 weeks ago with like the Japanese cuneiform stuff. You're trying to look for physics and acting and attitude in simple lines. Like the lines that you make should have attitude invested in them. Attitude, physics, and whatever else you want to put into it. You're trying to say something with what you're doing. You're not just like blindly copying reality, but you're trying to say something about who the figure is, how they're posed, what their mood is, what they might be thinking. So look for any kind of little shred of something that you can play with. Besides that, like I'm making this guy like kind of snooty a bit. Shrugging. Try to put yourself in the shoes of the character you're trying to portray with the silhouette. Cloak figures are a great opportunity to just make it just about a simple silhouette. Because like a cloak, I mean, that makes it really easy to make this like a giant triangle mass shape out of the lower body, doesn't it? Instead of having to deal with legs. So where does your attention go then? What can you do to kind of emphasize things with this pose? Or change up the silhouette a little bit. I already see a strategy that I'm going to use. I push the hands out a little bit. I cartoonified things a little bit. Then I got this straight line that's almost going like vertically perfect straight down to the ground. I got this kind of curved line, a little bit more curved line, creating that triangle shaped body here. A little bit of the silhouette of the piled cloth and fabric down below. Just fill in the rest. Just trying to make a simple statement with this lady. I think that I can modify the silhouette. I can make this into an elf now. Elf maiden. By adding a little bit of hair there. Hair in those ears. stick one foot out there, make her more elegant. Oh. This guy's a really crunchy pose, but I guess that's JPEG artifacting, but it's a really nice slouch. This is an opportunity to, again, look for something you want to say here. Like, this guy has a really kind of a nice forward slouch. Really pushing forward there. Got a leg that's severely foreshortened towards us. I'm going to use this kind of box body with line of action lines for the limbs a bit to help me. I'm going to use very simple feet. Very simple calves. I'm just trying to get like the basic idea of this figure. So I want to really emphasize the slouch, the body here. I'm going to push the silhouette a bit so we can see more of his hands down below here. Separate them a bit. So I don't need to fully describe that arm. Get enough of the shoulder there. I think that hand coming up there is. That says all I need to say. Have a little bit more of an ear there. So it's a nice, fun, abstract state. Alright, so this lady, very dynamic. And the more dynamic and pushed poses to start with, the simpler the thing we have to reach for is, for the statement that we're trying to say. Nose there. What can I do with the arms? Maybe make it look more like her arm is kind of bending up right there a little bit. Maybe exaggerate the knee pads a bit. Plant her feet on the skateboard, which is a 3D surface here. Change the, maybe like that wheel's going like this, like we got kind of like a vanishing point. These wheels are going back towards and stuff. Yeah, we're out of time. That was enough for me to play with that pose. I drew her pretty big though. So I'm gonna maybe want to watch that on my subsequent poses. So here's this student. There is a very kind of casual attitude about this guy. There's plenty to play with. He's still got personality to him, both in how he's dressed and just like his general posture. There's plenty to play with. Look at that, that very simple foot. I'm just keeping in mind like the back foot is planted there. So it's like planted on like a 3D space that I'm kind of visualizing underneath him, like that. There's a very, very slight lean to his body, but I'm emphasizing it more than what's there. Also giving him more of a separated silhouette for his legs. And it's going to be hard to make the silhouette of the newspaper read, so I'm going to change the pose a bit. But it definitely looks like he's reading the paper. The silhouette could be better, but by modifying the silhouette a bit, I can describe the action and make it read easier. This is lovely. I mean, we can immediately see there's like a really good line of action for those arms right there, creating this great sense of balance. Figure this is a good opportunity to practice one of those heads talked about from earlier. Let's just do this. Use the Chinese cuneiform, the Japanese cuneiform approach. Find the rest of the pose. Look for opportunity for like emphasizing those cascading waterfalls of physics. Because this nice, her palm is like pointed upwards here, which is really, really nice. It's kind of very lyrical pose. And she has like thick sleeves. You can emphasize that a bit as you add it to the silhouette. Very hunched over. I would have actually emphasized the hunch a bit more if I was going to do the pose over again, but throughout a time I'm going to fill in what I got. I'll move on to the football player. There we go. This is a really fantastic pose right here. This is also a great opportunity to practice that little kind of 1-2 head. Right there. First I'm going to fill that in. So I'm doing the silhouette with this drawing. But look at that, like, you can start, like, you can look for, like, you can really see, like, how the waterfall kind of works in a really dynamic pose like this, especially like a counterposed pose for the torso, like that. It's coming down around the side of the side of the outer thigh, coming down around the upper thigh and around the knee, and the side of the calf there. It's even like looping around the foot throw that's nestled right there against his foot. See. All these forms play against each other and work together. I actually won't fill this guy in with a silhouette. I think I'm going to keep this as a kind of a gestural force study. I think it's important to kind of emphasize that with that particular pose. This guy right here, I'm deciding I'm gonna like do a little detour and do like kind of more of an angular approach on this guy. I'll be using sharp angles on him instead of curves. That means like heavy emphasis on like jagged straights. Like you could do silhouette studies. You can do any kind of figure study. Like more, you can decide to make them more lyrical, more curvy stuff. You can decide to make them more angular. In this case, I'm kind of happy with like the overall kind of angular stuff, and now I'm kind of seeing like his upper body that jacket he's wearing, or whatever, blouse, I don't know, shirt, something. That kind of looks a little bit more like something you draw with more curves. So you can have a nice contrast if you're like designing a character like this, like his upper torso has more curvy forms to what he's wearing, but his legs and his head, some other things might have more kind of like straight and angular stuff. Let's see, I'm gonna try to fill in the rest of this that I have left. Make this a little bit more apparent. I want to make his hand and his wrist more apparent. Do that. There's a version of the silhouette exercise which I might want to get into in the future, which involves subtraction, where instead of drawing a form, or well, in addition to drawing a form, you do a lot of elimination, kind of like what I'm doing here. You subtract from something. It's kind of like carving into something with a sculptor's chisel. The version of it that you can do with an X-Acto knife and black construction paper, where you basically carve out the figure. Still in time to join the practice? Yeah, sure. We're going to be at this for another, let's see, hour and a half, I believe. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
You've got 1 minute and 5 seconds to go.
Very good. So I'm going to go back through these. I'm actually going to ignore this really complicated pose here on the right. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to go back through and kind of fill in some of the stuff that is a little bit choppy. So strengthen these up more. You can be strategic with your time when you're doing a pose session. You're not obligated to do every pose. If there's a particular pose you want to stay on and push a little bit more, or you want to do some pose invention, kind of riffing on the pose you just did or something, you're welcome to do that. Okay, Google, stop. Okay, Google, set timer for 7 minutes.
7 minutes, starting now.
You see, as you start making more decisions about stuff, and as you start filling in more of the silhouette, like the little gaps start reading more. Like this reads more as like a finger in there, for example. Now that I filled in the gaps there. This guy right here still feels like I could push him more, and I think that's pretty easily solved by strengthening things a bit. Yeah, these are an opportunity to play. Like, you get to play with silhouettes like putty. You get to go back in and strengthen them up, push things and stuff. Feel like. What's cool about these is, like, you can see how these kind of become a foundation to, like, you know, make a character drawing and stuff. Start getting more into them. Like, these initial reads on some of these are strong enough to turn into, like, a quick character illustration. Some of these are so nice that I actually think I might take for our last set. Maybe I'll have us take like your strongest poses or something, and then we do a draw over where we either push the pose more, or we use the silhouette that we got to create a character drawing. Because these are all, I think that these poses on this page I did are like easily all strong enough to use as like character drawings. Like. Here, merge some layers. Go. But you see, like, this is the result of just me practicing regularly and stuff. Like the bits and pieces of like all this stuff is building together for me. Like my muscle memory of animation figure drawing is starting to come back. This guy's almost like his own separate study, I would say. I'm gonna maybe exclude him from this page. I'll make a separate folder that's just for like those particular drawings like that, where I'm kind of emphasizing like the forceful energies of the drawing. This is a strong enough page itself. I can just move the poses around a bit. I think even this guy turned out better too. Now that I pushed some things on him. Oops, these poses are still going. Forgot to pause. Sorry. Yeah, I think 2 minutes is a good time. That gives us a lot of time to think, a lot of time to design. I think we're going to stick with 2 minutes for the rest of the session. I'm going to take a look at what people are doing in Magna Studio. Let's have a peek, shall we? Okay, so over in Magna Studio land, it looks like one person is not using the lower right. So if anyone wants to pop in, the link is in the Magna Studio links section of my Discord. You can use one more person in there. Just come in, sign your name in the drawing space. And you can participate in the class. Be sure to save screenshots or download images of your work. So you have a little record of it. You can upload the chat. So you can see what you're doing, what you've done so far, if you need to create new layers to draw on and stuff. So yeah, I see people kind of messing with this. How do I add a layer? The layer function is on the right. Here, let me 1 sec. Okay, so adding a new layer, it's I believe it's this or this right here. If you can see on Twitch, the button's on the right here. And then you just turn off the opacity on the layer. I did not really think that chat box through. That whoever is, I'm gonna have to briefly hide the chat box or something to when I shift emphasis over here to check out what people are doing with whoever takes up the 4th drawing space. Looks like we got one more person, so be sure to sign your name in the lower right. It's first come, first serve, so first person who signs, go. Can get started. Sign your name in the lower right, and you'll be able to participate. So let's also take a look at what people are doing in Discord. So I like this character right here. You might want to pull him. You might want to pull him away from this other guy you drew. It's a little, that reads pretty okay. I think that could be pushed more. Like there could be more of a forward-leaning character. This one you got to kind of cut off at the page, but I do like the way the overall feeling of the line of action. The only thing I don't like about this is I really like, because I know this pose is really hunched over, and I want a good sense of weight where they're balancing on one foot. You can see where I tried to put that here. I try to get like a sense of like the bend of the leg and holding up the body when I was looking at it. That's very important to me. Some other thing. Okay, Google, stop. You're always looking for kind of a sense of the center of gravity here. The center of gravity is usually it's usually around the chin or around the
Sorry, I don't understand.
Okay, Google, stop. It's usually around the chin, or it's usually around like the corner of the ear or something when a pose is standing still. It's definitely in the case here. And also, like, your center of gravity is modified usually by like whatever like weighty things of your limbs are sticking out on either side of your body. In this case, this character is they're hunched low to the ground, which gives them more balance. They have their arms way wide out. They are in motion when they're doing this pose too, by the way. I'm not quite sure what direction they're moving in or how quickly, but it's a very dynamic pose. I presume that they're posing very slowly and meticulously, but it's hard to say. Let me actually go back to this pose. Okay, so I think that they are I think they are mid-movement for like a really dynamic set of posings, actually, because we see a motion blur with what they're doing. But I think this is a moment when they are kind of like anticipating the next movement. Very slightly. So they're getting ready to explode out into another move. In hindsight, I definitely gave her a super long arm there, but it still feels something that I can always just like fix it. Like, I mean, it's exaggerated arm. Yeah, even flipping it, it just looks like cartoony exaggerated arm. It's not a huge deal. This guy's definitely, I turned him into a cartoon character for sure. And I really like how he turned out, so I'm gonna have some fun with him later, maybe. Yeah, you want to look for like the balance and the gravity, center of gravity. So this lady, she's moving to the left. Her skateboard, presumably, or she's striking a pose on a board that's standing perfectly still for a model session. But for this purposes of this, I consider that she's like has inertia moving to the left here. So even with that in mind, like she's kind of like struggling. She's like kind of like posing in a way that kind of helps her maintain her balance in a kind of a wild pose. So I think she's on like kind of like a skate park slant here. Yeah, it's a skate park. Yeah, okay, so she actually is. She was snapped like mid-session. This is not a pose. It's not a stage thing. She's actually at a skate park. Cool. So yeah, she's like kind of posing maybe at like a really wild angle. I think there's an angle towards us, like at the edge of something. A slope. But you want to kind of look for where the inertia is and where the center of gravity and the weight is and stuff. So this is very still pose right here. Characters. I planted her other foot over there, but you could actually, but I think her feet are actually towards the front here. Okay, so we're gonna get back to another set. Everyone get ready. Folks in the Magma Studio land in the upper right, get ready. You might need to create a new layer. Make sure to screenshot stuff you've done previously, or you can try to work very, very small on your space if you can, so you can get all your poses in. Be sure to, if you need to create new layers, then just make sure you screenshot what you've done so you can hold on to it and upload it later. Yeah, let's get going. Get started on this dude here. So, okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Your screen sharing on Discord lost connection again.
One sec, I gotta modify my Discord volume so I can hear. Okay, Google, add 30 seconds to timer.
Done. 30 seconds added to your timer.
What did you say? Sorry.
Your screen sharing on Discord failed. It's lost connection.
I did it again, huh? Yeah, it sure did. There you go. Okay. Okay,
Thank
Google, add 30 seconds to timer.
Done. 30 seconds added to your 20-minute and 30-second timer. You've got 20 minutes and 23 seconds remaining.
Okay, so we're good to go now. We're gonna keep at this and for like, wow, it's only like 7:10. Huh? So we actually do have like about an hour and a half. So. I'm gonna take maybe an opportunity to detour perhaps silhouettes a little bit into doing more kind of like the flowy gestural sort of waterfall stuff I was showing off. But it's still rooted in like similar ideas to the silhouette drawing. In this case, I'm actually modifying the position of the head because then I see like, after getting more of the figure down, the head not only takes up more space, but the head is also pushed back even more. I think actually I will fill in the silhouette on this one. I want to see how it overall reads. But I'll save filling in the rest of that for later. And I kind of want to move on to the next pose. This is a pose that I've definitely drawn before. This is an opportunity for me to maybe exaggerate or do some weird character stuff. I'm going to stretch out his head, for example. For that cuneiform kind of thing that's going on there. Make his torso really thin, bottom, large at the top. keeping the feet fairly simple, looking for opportunities to apply the stuff that I was showing you guys off earlier tonight, like straights against curves, other things. Simplify it, kind of gestural hand there. Thicken up the legs a little bit, but I want to keep them separated and more for a stronger silhouette. Kind of looks a little bit like a character design from Soul, now that I think about it. Maybe Pixar movie. So this is a vignette. You can actually invent more to the pose if you like. Or you can just draw what's on screen. Keeping my hand loose while I kind of play with the overall sweep of the idea. I'm gonna maybe like stick with the vignette for this one. What's fun about vignettes is because you're not drawing like the whole figure, you can put more emphasis onto the area that you are drawing. So I don't have to draw the rest of the legs. I can emphasize the upper body more. Think about what she's doing. She's about like kind of trying to spike a volleyball. I think there's some exaggeration opportunities in here, for sure. Like I can emphasize her neck more, like push her torso forward more. A little bit of elimination. Now it's time to move on. So this is a great pose that shows off some of that cascading waterfall effect that I'm talking about. Do that, like, got this opposing this, right there. All kinds of opportunities to play with the force of the drawing. Look at that, it's like shoof, shoof. So I'm turning this one into a force exercise instead of a silhouette study now. I'm paying attention to those gestural forces. Still thinking in terms of silhouette. Like I designed this area, for example. Make his arm more of a right angle there. Still cartooning him a bit. That's a really fun drawing. I really like that, how that one turned out. So there's some opportunities to add a few things in before I move on. This is a really fun pose right here. So this is an opportunity to look for those cuneiform forms. that can get you like the simplistic statement about what's happening. But also look at what's happening here, like where is the physics being exerted? Where's like the blow being taken? What can you push? Maybe emphasize this dude's pain and his recoil. Getting like an aerial kick across the face that he's trying to guard against. Shrink this down a bit. It's a really great pose. A lot of stuff going on here. Like he's got one foot planted on the ground, one foot that's kind of lifting off the ground there. His upper body's recoiling with the shock of being hit. It's really super dynamic dude who's like hitting him like a dive bombing swallow almost. I'm gonna rewind. I'm gonna spend a little more time on this pose if I want to get this down. Even as like his foot is kind of pointed like a dagger towards the guy's body, his other foot. Amazing, amazing moment of sports photography right here. Let's see if I can get more of like this leg that has less force on it, because it's kind of lifting off the ground, which is the other one. Like if we were to think of like this pose in terms of like the energy being exerted, it's going like, if this was like in like a manga or something like that, there'd be like a crazy amount of action lines and shit, like emphasizing the strike, the absorption of the force, like something wild like that. Move that. We can leave that there actually. We can make a new sheet. So we spent a little extra time on this pose. Kind of played with it a bit because it's that much work posed. But we will be moving to the next pose in about 30 seconds. You see, when you start thinking of figures and lines of actions in terms of like those Japanese uniforms, it's like you're making calligraphy out of it. You're like making a calligraphic statement. Out of body language. You definitely see that in this. Yeah, we'll use this. It's okay to mix it up with some drawing, like practice from existing drawings to see like how some other artists exaggerate. Like look at how that hand is coming towards us. It's a lot bigger. Very exaggerated force perspective. I do get the feeling that they were probably reference cues, but played with severely in order to get this pose, because I have seen actual real skater trick poses that look like this. Right, maybe not holding the can of spray paint back there, but it's not out of the ballpark for something like an actual person to pull off. Lovely piece of Jet Set Radio fan art. And you can see like this is an artist that like really likes to emphasize like those kind of the forces that are driving like this pose, like the energy of the rollerblades. They have weight to them and stuff, and for so much of the emphasis of the character's movement is in the games. It was really cool kind of slashing action lines for the force of the feet flipping over the body. Shrink this a bit so you can see more of it. There we go. It's a really fun little study of an existing piece of art. I'm going to make a new page now. So it's on the last layer. So this is the same lady. I don't know if this is the same same moment from. I don't think this is the same moment photographed from a different angle, but. So this is the same lady, I think, of the vignetted volleyball spike. So I'm using this as an opportunity to kind of reel it back into silhouette drawing, sort of building off figure, playing rough and loose with it. Some sort of subtraction to push things that I don't think are pushed enough by eliminating things and then pushing them more. That one kind of threw me off a little bit, but let's put that over here. Alright, so this one, I want to get back to the cuneiform initial approach. So what is she doing? She's kind of leaning in. She'll lunge for possibly an incoming ball. A really big moment of tension for her, reacting to something. She's turning away from us in 3D space. Pushing herself away from us and to the left, jumping forward off the ground. The heels coming up. Her hips are tilted kind of this way. Her body is lunged forward and reaching. Three, two, one. You're a little big there. Really tricky pose because there's a lot going on there, especially with the foreshortening for that last one. these guys are definitely very tricky too. So there's like, if you squint on this one, there's kind of a very unclear silhouette because there's too much overlap happening between the two figures. So for in this case, on this one, like I could do both the figures, but I don't think it's enough time for me to try to make sense of both of them. So I'm just going to pick one. I'm going to draw smaller. Force myself to really pay attention to what's going on, what I'm doing. So his torso is twisted up this way. His hips are turning this, are like twisted at an angle towards us. You can see like the base of his spine turning towards his buttocks, which are twisted away from us. Looks like he's trying to make a kind of a kick there. He maybe change the pose just a little bit for that. Pretty tricky pose. Okay, so now we got this guy here who's a great. Okay, Google, stop. So the last pose on the set. We're gonna spend extra time on that. We're gonna use this as the last pose on this set before break. Okay, Google, stop. Because this is a pose that eliminates a lot of detail and makes it kind of very silhouette friendly inherently because of what he's wearing. So this is an opportunity to look for those those cues of what makes the silhouette read. Look at this, he's got a leg that's going out like this. Terminates at the heel, comes out towards us. A little simple there. Fabric of the clothes are kind of bunched up at the top of his shoe a bit. He's got his other thigh coming down here. So he's putting his weight on this leg, and this other leg is more relaxed and coming off the ground towards us. You see more of the top of the shoe, so this is longer because this other shoe is foreshortened. Knee is bending at about here, I would say. And then you can bunch up the fabric behind it a bit. Calf that's being foreshortened towards us. You start filling it in. You see how you can like make like design decisions and it becomes almost like a magic trick. Like when you fill in the silhouette, like starts to make sense. Like this makes sense now as a single unit or character or something. I could carve in additional details to it if I wanted. like for example. Or yeah, this guy turned out pretty fun. Clothed figures that kind of do a very silhouette look to themselves are really great fodder for practicing off of. That's why I try to include a lot of simple standing poses. Like if you notice, like I kind of tangled and a little bit more confused with these like dynamic athletes, like the direct direction stuff is going, but then I kind of reel it. Then like a pose like this, you can reel it back to home. Like there is a sense now of him leaning and like where the weight is and stuff, and like the overall kind of attitude is kind of present. This guy, he looks pretty good when he gets flipped too. Yeah. Let's take a look at what other people have done in the Discord. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
It looks like you don't have any timers set at the moment.
Okie doke. Okay, Google, set timer for 7 minutes.
7 minutes, starting now.
I like where some of these are going for sure. Zobs, yeah. Zob, yeah, you're definitely playing with more abstract angular shapes and stuff. That's looking pretty fun. I think you can simplify it even more too. Like I want to see more kind of like areas of simplicity if you can go for it. Like if you can go into these some more and kind of like, well, fill in the stuff where it gets a little hatchy, and make like some cleaner decisions or something, or emphasize like the angles you chose. So that'd be cool. The angles and the curves you chose. These ones I'm not getting these are kind of fun, but I'm not getting a sense of like the overall thrust and the feel of them. Like they feel kind of piecey. Where like this one, like if you cover up the arms on this one, for example, like this figure here, it feels pretty good. But then when you see it with the arms kind of throw it off a bit. You want to think of the figure as one big unit that is kind of maintaining its own sense of integrity and balance. You pull it off a little bit better on this pose, but still kind of a bit of a pieciness feel to like this area here. Like you want to kind of maintain the overall flow of the energy of the pose as one whole unit working in tandem with itself. Like that's what last week's class subject was really about at its core. I'm trying to think of the overall mass of the figure as being a singular unit. Like do a quick draw over here, for example. Like on this, like let's say, we grab one of the poses. So like on this guy right here, like I want like the overall flow of the pose to feel connected together and cohesive about what's happening here. That's okay. Like this is an opportunity for you. Like you don't even necessarily need to use the reference. You can go back in and try to use your own sense doing drawovers to tie these poses together so they look less piecemeal in their limbs and stuff, and they look more kind of like a cohesive unit. of a figure making a singular statement. Like when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about like the overall shape of like where everything is leaning here, how this foot relates to the other foot, um, like the overall kind of shape of that box of the body there, the spread of the thighs and stuff. Um, this lady right here, I wanted a good sense of like the overall kind of cohesive balance of her figure. Not too far off, but I think you can go back in and push it some more. And see, since you are kind of designing, you're going to be riffing on what you have, basically. I mean, you can rewatch my video later to see the same reference if you like, but it's good. It's also good for you to make decisions based on what you did do, because then you'll be stronger at making those decisions on the fly when you're presented with poses you're not used to. This guy, for example, like using that kind of like rhythm that I was showing examples of, to kind of feel like that overall that using those flowy rhythms down the body, that sense of flowy rhythm down the whole body and stuff, or parts of the body, is a way to unify the pose, like to unify the energy that's flowing through the whole thing. And you can use that as something to riff off of to turn the pose into a cohesive unit. This is an example. This one actually gets a little confused, but there we go. Now it's starting to put together a bit. Okay, Google, stop. Yeah, I'm just trying to give some examples. Like, if you can go back in, you can start like figuring out how to unify the pose. Turn it into a singular statement or unit. I look for whatever the overall thrust is, like she's got this kind of bow, and she's got her inertia going that way. She's also got an arm that's going down back here, so put that in. I feel like that thigh leg I'm not too happy with. I think that would be a good opportunity to do a little bit of elimination. You're looking for like an overall statement that you can unify, basically, with an abstract shape or an abstract line of action. Anyway, so we'll continue on another set. This has been a really productive practice, by the way. I'm happy with quite a lot of the results I'm seeing people posting so far. I see people actually integrating the feedback I've been giving too. It's always nice to see. So I think we're definitely going to do some more of this on Friday, but I'm going to see if I can try to sneak in some cinematic composition studies. Is Discord stream down again? Seriously? Is it down again? Let me restart it. Might have something to do with like the quality of it or something. Let's see here. Let's put it on 30 FPS, 720, that might help. Yeah, it keeps going down over and over. I don't understand why. And thanks for the resub, Yu Main, for earlier. All right, so we'll get started very shortly. Again, if you want to support the class, if you want to help us upgrade to 4K, so the people on the you want to help us upgrade to 4K for the people in Magma Studio, you can sub me on Twitch. You can support me on Patreon, or you can give me direct donations with my Ko-fi link to my PayPal account down below. Okay, let me put the donate plug on Twitch. There you go. There's the links. Twitch chat, all that stuff. And, so we'll get started on another set here. Okay, Google set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
20 minutes and 30 seconds. And we're starting now.
Start with this lady here, because she's clothed. Doing a woman samurai pose. See, she's a great opportunity to practice some very simple shape design. So I got this kind of curved shape here. I'm gonna remember that I have to fill all this in. So I want to see where I can separate certain limbs and stuff. For example, I'm going to I want to keep like that feeling of weight on this leg here, so I'm going to make sure I get that really scrunched there. But I want to have like her bits of her hands visible here at the front. So I'm moving the sword up a little bit further up from her thigh. And she's got kind of a really nice sort of curve to her body going back to the leg there, with like this kind of fabric sort of following the flow of her body form. Going back there. If I wanted to exaggerate this, I could like really push the size for legs. I think I might do that a bit. Because that's a really large area for costuming. Now that I have this, I'll duplicate it real quick and I'll see if I can fill it in before I move on. There's a shortcut with the paint bucket tool. It's kind of going for like sort of a Samurai Jack-ish feel with her. So, let's see where that took us. Ooh, that's fun. A nice look right there. Her silhouette. Again, maybe not fill in that whole silhouette like that, because I like how that looks. Now I got this dude. I've drawn him before. So I want to think about how I'm going to handle him. This is a very great pose for like superheroes or martial arts stuff. You could even see like a spellcaster or something doing a move like this. This almost seems like a move that you'd see like in a shonen sports manga or a shonen battle manga. So I'm going to keep his silhouette pretty gestural as I fill it in and I add mass to it. So I want to kind of play with that a bit. I want to play with the dynamics of him. Kept him pretty noodly for that silhouette. That's okay. So I was just trying to vibe into the overall feel of his body. So let's try to see if I have enough time to do both of these poses. I want to remember to exaggerate, so I really kind of push the triangular dagger right there. That dude. His hair coming up like that. Oh yeah, there's a film that I just saw a trailer for that looks for like a hoot. It's called Psycho Gorman or something, and it's about a little girl who gets control of like a kind of like the ultimate bad guy from like an 80s or like an 80s like heavy metal comic / Saturday morning cartoon show or something, or like a pulpy fantasy novel, like the kind of stuff that like it's definitely 80s, but it's also very 90s too, I would say. Kind of she's kind of in charge of like an Image Comics villain, early Image Comics villain, I would say, but with like more of an 80s bend. Skeletor without any of the punches pulled, basically. It's a really cartoony, fun, silly-looking movie. I wish I could find a trailer for it. Yeah, it's Psycho Gorman, I think. Psycho. Yep, here it is. Psycho Gorman. And this is yeah, she's basically in control of a uncensored Power Rangers villain, more or less. Or like a Kamen Rider villain, a bloody Kamen Rider villain or something. So there's like lots of graphic gore and graphic violence, and it's all over the top stuff, but it's contrasted with like this very kind of like 80s Punky Brewster kind of character who's in control of the ultimate evil creature. So I don't get copyright blank, we may actually take a peek at the trailer after we get done with this, after I restart the stream towards the very end. But the trailer's pretty funny. It's a concept that would be great for a series for sure. It's not too dissimilar to like a show I worked on before too. A little neighborhood girl in charge of an ultimate universal evil is not exactly a new concept, but I do like how well, from what I saw, that this particular version of the idea is done. Anyway, so I'm kind of like flying on autopilot now because I'm sort of flowing in with the pose. Don't have to think as much about them. I have kind of like a sense of playfulness to what I'm doing. Physics. Sort of getting in the zone a little bit, you know. Look at that. Like I even like I put a little indication in there of like his mustache. Playing with exaggeration and stuff. You can see a bit of his nose and a bit of his mustache, and I put like some like back of his hair there. Psycho Gorman, yeah. It does look amazing. So yeah, tomorrow, good thing I mentioned movies, because tomorrow, definitely show up for Discord, because we're going to be working on some cinematic studies together. And we're doing a little bit more of kind of like this kind of stuff to keep up with practice too. But we'll also be doing like some breakdowns of cinematic scenes together. Like it's kind of like for the homework that's going to be the Saturday class. Tomorrow's definitely going to be a very nice, very chill homework period. Remember, it's not about quantity; it's about quality. You want to like meditate kind of on the study that you do, so it's so like what you get out of it stays in your brain more. Even if you do just like one cinematic study through the week. In this case, this week I put a lot of emphasis on my figure drawing, so tomorrow's going to be my opportunity to do my valuable, thoughtful cinematic study, even if it's just one. Or I might like figure out an approach that I want to do multiple compositional studies from. we'll see. Maybe I'll have a few pages of studies I can do tomorrow. We could be working through some strategies of that together. Should be pretty fun. And if you're starved of something to pick, you can go to Sakuburu to find animated films to pick from. You can find clips from YouTube of scenes from your favorite films, scenes or sequences from your favorite films to do studies from. Yeah, I want to start making. Oh, we're not going to be using this head. Let me finish filling in this guy real quick, and then we'll change it to another pose. Forget what is the next step after silhouettes next week. I think we're going to be doing some interpretation of poses into characters for next week. As the next step of where we move from the progression that we're doing. It's okay if these studies are a little messy, but sometimes if you want to clean them up a bit with eliminating parts to them, if you can do it digitally, that's fine. Even if you have like a little whiteout pen, for example, you can use that too. Oh my god, I just had a flashback to a dream. I literally had a dream where I was teaching a figure drawing class and I was telling people that they could use a whiteout pen. I had that dream, not last night, but the night before. I don't know, like, for some reason in the dream I just really wanted to think about using a whiteout pen. Why? I haven't used one in forever. So for this pose, I'm doing a lot of drawing, like, without lifting up my pencil too much. Because that helps, this is in this case, for this particular pose, that's a strategy to help me kind of think of the pose as one cohesive unit. I think that this back leg could be pushed a little more, so I'm going to eliminate some stuff from there. Then I can angle the foot a little bit back there. Maybe emphasize the lean forward by extending the top of the head out a bit. Indication of the nose there. tool. This guy's a great opportunity to do a little kind of force study. I'm gonna do him. So we got like this coming around like the back, around like his back and his head. This on that side hip. This over here. But it's foreshortening that's happening towards us here. Lovely twisting happening in the torso there. Sort of figure eight, sort of line of action going through the body. Head up there. Not too worried about like filling in this figure because I'm using this as an opportunity to do a force study. Concerned about getting that overall sense of the flow of the pose. So how's everyone doing? In voice chat land and in Magna Studio Landville up in the corner of the screen. This is a new selection of poses I took the time to put together today. How do you like it? Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
T minus 2 minutes and 1 second.
Cool, this is our last pose of this set. So I'm going to make it a good one. See how much I can exaggerate this or play with it a bit. About 2 minutes. In this case, his arm is actually going back over here. I think that arm might compete with his silhouette a little bit. So I might edit that a bit. Him a bit. It will keep his arm. I'll just extend it out there a bit. I don't think it competes with his leg too much. Kind of crosses across it. Creates kind of an interesting A shape there. Okay, Google, stop. Pause it here. These are coming out really fun. Although these earlier poses are kind of shrank. So let's maybe move these guys over here. Let's take these guys, move down here. And let's see, how many poses do I have on that? This and this and this. Let's blow this up in good ways. Like there. Good. Let's take this. scoot this guy up over here. Take this. Scoot this guy here. Blow it up a bit. Actually, like right here, and blow it up a bit. Take this guy. Move him. Whoop. This guy has a very nice baseball pose. Let's move him here. Samurai Lady gets more emphasis here. And this guy, let's put on his own layer and get beefed up a bit here. So I'm thinking like compositionally how I arrange these poses right now on the page. So this guy, really like him. And I like how I like how like his pose sort of plays off the samurai a little bit there. So I don't want to get rid of that. That is a heckin' fun page right there, if I do say so. I actually think maybe this pose can be shrunk and scooted over here. And this pose, yoinked, blown up. He seems more like a character. Scoot him over. And scoot her over. And one last adjustment, maybe this guy here. Can go here, and we can beef him up a bit to show off some of that forceful energy. That's quite a fun page right there. So I'm going to save a backup. Ooh, wow, interesting. I didn't make a proper section for this, or I didn't save it in the proper section. So save one copy. I'll save backup copy here. I'll save a second backup copy just to be on the double safe side. Goody. And it reminds me I have to do a backblaze backup when I get the chance. Oh yeah, backblaze is no longer on the free trial period. I'm gonna have to sign up for that. I think it's like $6 a month to do backups with it. I'm gonna do that later when I get the chance. But yeah, let's take a look and see what people are doing up in Magma Studio, and then we'll take a look at Discord. Then we'll be going on to another set. Actually, it's pretty close to the end of the session. right now. So maybe we should just like take a look at people's work, and maybe I can do a little demo showing what I was talking about earlier with taking like your poses you've done earlier and pushing them or turning them into characters and stuff. There we go. These are fun. Some nice energy in this one. This one gets a little disconnected from the torso to the legs, but versus like you see how this one feels like a cohesive unit that's like saying one thing together with the whole body, and then like this one is kind of like gets a little muddled here, and like how he's postured and planted sort of gets a little confused. You want to have like a big flowing statement of the line of action going through the whole body, and connecting the limbs and everything, and driving the limbs and so on. Same thing with this. You can see like the upper body works better if you cover up the legs, but when you see the legs get a little weaker. Like you want the legs kind of like working with the rhythm of the body. Let's see here. Do I have a layer to draw on? Overall sense like that. Pose like this. You want like an overall sense of like the figure as a unit. And don't worry, like it takes time to kind of key into this stuff. It's going to take a lot of repetition and practice and observation, and this stuff clicks over time. And one thing I'll say is like, this is a really successful little quick sketch study for a little quick study. Like that's a good example. That's a good example right there. Like, you can draw like really small, and if you can draw really small and do like quick poses where you just like get a quick impression of the pose and stuff. That keep playing off like these rhythms to make the pose a cohesive unit. This one is kind of moving in the right direction, I would say. There's a little bit of PC stuff going on here, but it's not too bad. Let's see here. There is an overall sense that you're starting to kind of grasp the essence of what you're trying to go for sure. I'm definitely getting that sense. Like, you see, like these limbs are kind of like radiating off the body that's turned and twisted that way, and like there's like this kind of rhythm playing down the whole figure. Like even on this, like you can emphasize this even more. You can go back over your drawings, kind of like what I'm doing here, and like look for opportunities to push stuff. Like if you weren't quite getting something, you can go over like this guy, for example, and like say, how can I turn that to a more cohesive unit? Maybe I can go back and like this, and like how can I get more like dynamic feeling of like a stronger sense that he's planting his feet down there, stuff, or yeah. Remember to like save and screenshot your work too. Oh, this is a nice one. This is a really simple statement. I would say that you could even like balance it further by putting his leg under a little bit more or something. This one's a nice gestural study. I think the springiness of the back leg needs to be a thing. The springiness and the lean of the back leg needs to be a thing that is noticed in this guy for sure. This is cool too because I'm getting like doubling up on the practice and thinking more about the poses that I've just done by analyzing what other people said. This is pretty nice actually. Like there is a good sense of posture. There's that leaning to the body there. Even though this is kind of like really like rude, like stick figure-y looking, there's like information in it that you can feel like the lean of the body and the planting of the foot, turning that way, simplified foot, tilt of the shoulders versus down here. So there's like enough information there to work with, basically. Let's see here. There's some. I see some good stuff in here, but I think more stuff could be pushed. There's some, like for example, like on this one, you want a good rhythm. You want a good rhythm of how this pose plays against each other itself, like how the limbs are rhythmically playing against the lean body and the tilt of the hips stuff. If you can reduce a like you can take if you can look at a pose and not see it as a collection of limbs, but see it as like there's a forceful like calligraphic stroke of a letter, or so like a calligraphic letter or Chinese character that's like really wild that the body is making and saying with its posture, then you can have something to play with and push. You're literally like learning a measure of calligraphy for this. Because calligraphy has a sense of flow and balance to it, and gesture, and parts that are more flowy and parts that are more hard and harsh. Killer. So this one right here, I think, like, these are getting a little piecemeal, but there are bits and pieces of stuff that I see you pulling together. Like, there's a little bit of a good sense of, yeah, there is a sense of rhythm in some of these that something you can play off of more, like going on this guy some more. And I do like what you did with this arm here, with the straight coming out there. That's nice. I would say maybe like the foot can be put in here to create more balance. This one right here, it's not like, as I mentioned with the other ones, like this is an opportunity to kind of play with the rhythm of the body versus the rhythm of the arms. Tilt of that torso and the waist. But this pose turned out really nice, and I'll kind of show you why I think this is effective. Like, look at this. Look at that lovely sense of calligraphy you had. So it's in you to pull this stuff out of you. There's bits and pieces of like there's little bits and pieces of like things like little kind of like bits of proportion. Like proportions are not going to be perfect in practice like this, but you want to get stuff that's a little bit more in the ballpark for these guys. So like this guy, for example, that's kind of like awkward. Like his upper body looks a little bit bigger than this area here. This guy right here kind of suffers from that too a bit. It's okay to play with proportions, but you want to try to do it deliberately. And so the other things I'm seeing here is I can see that you have a good sense of force doing this right here. This is really lovely. And then terminating at that foot, turning that way. And I see that you are also playing with force back over here with the less weight on that back leg as he's like lunging, coming around, twisting his whole body to throw that pitch. You could push this even like this mitt. Just catch his pitching mitt turned around or whatever. Space there. This is a really like there's enough here to like I can see you were keying into this stuff. So I'm trying to show you what you were keying into so you can like so you can bring more of that out of you when you're doing more of these. So like it's there, I see it there. And it's all I'm doing is just playing off of what you drew.
Spacedad.
What's that?
So I was listening to your comments on the leftmost drawing as opposed as to the rest.
Which one?
This one.
Oh, the pitch pose.
Here.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So I find it easier with these types of poses because all of the limbs
Yeah.
are very
Yeah,
like they're sticking out a lot.
yeah, no, it's
as
well,
opposed
yeah,
to
for like there's a number of reasons for that. First is that like it's very clear. It's much clearer what the pose is doing, and the limbs are like much more distinct. It's a much more distinct silhouette. And also like the really dynamic poses, they're kind of easier to fudge a little bit and not get exact proportions on. And also, if you're like in this case, if you're concentrating like just on the energy of the pose, like then it starts to be more about the calligraphy of it, the calligraphy of the flow of the energy and stuff. Like I'm doing some random kind of calligraphic sort of stuff down here, just kind of show you this kind of thought process of making those calligraphic strokes. It's not any particular pose. I'm just kind of showing you like a little bit of kind of flowy thought process going into when you analyze a figure. But yeah, like sometimes like really dynamic poses, or a lot of times really dynamic poses are easier to draw than really static still poses, because there's more for you to visually hook into. And what that means is you have to look for more subtle stuff and emphasize it in the poses that aren't as dynamic. Like, let me show you an example from mine, if I can find a more subtler pose. Well, like this dude, for example, here, like I did push him a bit, but like I tried to keep like the general flow going down through his body. There's also another good example here of somebody who did a good job with a little bit more of a subtler pose. This guy right here. This is a really simple pose right here, but you can still feel the lean of the body, and it feels like the feet are planted to me. So even though it's a subtler pose, like they were able to like notice that stuff about it. Let's see here. Let's see if I can find some other good examples. I really enjoyed doing these demos, these draw over demos. This guy right here is another good example, because this is not too far off from how this guy was actually posed. I didn't push it too much, but you can still get a sense of like how he's kind of leaning, and like his overall kind of rhythm of like his hips kind of playing against like his torso, like you can the tilt of his shoulders here versus like the kind of tilt of his hips there. They're kind of like they're tilted at like a 3D angle towards us actually, but you can still get kind of a sense of like his general subtler posture. And I did like push things a little bit, like I emphasized the arm just a little bit more. There was I needed to really emphasize the top of his foot being longer than the foreshortened foot coming towards us, so I made that longer, for example. But yeah, the subtler poses are for less experienced artists can be kind of tricky. But the idea is that like the dynamics of the really push stuff is still there in those. You just got to get better control over it, and you got to maybe exaggerate it and emphasize it a little more when you're doing these quick poses. When you get really, another thing that will really help is if you do a lot more like the bigger, broader dynamic stuff. It will also help you key into, oh, I can see the dynamic stuff happening in the subtler poses too. So yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
I'm gonna save this page as is, because it has my demos on it. But I want you guys to save and screenshot your work that you've done, even on other layers that may have made less visible and stuff. So I really enjoyed that. That's the first time I've ever really done drawovers on people's work on Magma Studio, and I really enjoyed it. So I definitely want to do more of that in the future. Again, if you want to, currently we're limited to a resolution of 1080p on this drawing page, which means that everyone here is drawing at about like a quarter of 1080p. But we can get a 4K resolution drawing space for everyone if people donate or subscribe on Twitch and stuff. I've already got a few donations. I think I should be able to sign up for it, and in the coming sessions next week. I do have to kind of play with my budget a bit because I've got to actually sign up for Backblaze so I can make sure that everything is backed up. But yeah, I don't know if I'll get to doing it tonight, but man, this was a good session. I really got a lot out of this. And this is a matter of building momentum over what we've been doing for the last few weeks. And also keeping up practice on the off days when I'm not teaching a class. So this is I'd say this one was a really strong page. I can arrange the poses a little better on it, kind of how I did on that other page. But I think this is by far the strongest page I put out tonight right here. And I'm looking forward to doing more of this next Friday and maybe integrating some of that with some cinematic studies Friday. We'll see how that goes. We might just go back to this on Friday. But I definitely want to do cinematic studies tomorrow. So if you guys are down, make sure you meet up. I'll be in like earlier in the day, before 5:30 p.m. in Discord. But if you but I will also definitely be there at 5:30 p.m. to do more of this tomorrow. In the Discord. We might also screen a film sometime. Figure out what film that it should be. Something cool, something interesting and cinematic, and something we might do studies from. And do some rad shit tomorrow. So yeah, I hope you guys had fun. I had fun watching you guys draw live and drawing over your work. And Zaw's got some cleaner poses. Let's take a look at Discord a bit before we shut down for the evening. This was a very, very productive session. So, oh my God. I don't think it's you that's causing that lag, Zav. There's another reason why I suspect that I'm getting lag right now in trying to open your thing in Discord, which it's a little bit complicated to get into. I think I want to do before we actually no, we weren't going to shut down the stream. We were going to check out that trailer of Psycho Gorman. So I'm going to restart the stream. Normally I would do a congratulations thing at the end here, but I'm just going to restart it so that we can like create a break in here for when I upload to YouTube later. So there's normally going to be a congratulations screen at the end here, but I'm just going to restart the stream so we can just, check out stuff. So I'm going to restart it. Be right back.